Have you ever been sitting alone at night, endlessly scrolling on your phone, then suddenly looked at the clock and wondered where the last 3 hours went? No work got done properly. The thing you promised yourself you would finish, unfinished. You didn't even enjoy yourself that much. And yet the time is just gone. A quiet ache settles in your chest, as if you've lost something you can't quite name, something important. Most of us have been there. I have too. Many times. Every time I think about it, I feel ashamed. This isn't a loud success story where someone wakes up at 4 a.m. and becomes a millionaire. This is much quieter. This is the story of an ordinary man named David, the kind of person you'd pass on the street without noticing. Around 30, an office job, not great, not terrible, a small apartment, weekends with friends, movies, late-night online gaming. Life is fine. Comfortable, no major problems. But inside, there was a small, nagging voice. That voice said, "You're not going anywhere." It wanted more. One day, it wanted to start a small business, something simple, maybe a coffee shop or an online store selling handmade goods. He had ideas. He even wrote them down in a notebook once. But every time he tried to start, something else came up. The new series everyone was talking about, late-night chats with friends, feeling tired after work. He told himself, "I'll start tomorrow." That's where things get strange. Tomorrow always felt far away. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. He didn't even notice how small decisions were piling up. He stopped going to the gym because he was too busy. He postponed learning new skills because there's no rush. After work, he said, "I deserve to relax today." These moments felt harmless. They felt earned, but quietly they were building something he couldn't yet see. One evening, David came home late from work, exhausted. He sat on the sofa and opened his laptop. He was supposed to work on his business plan. Instead, he started watching videos. One turned into two, two into three. 2 hours passed, then 3. Around 1 a.m., he closed the laptop and stared at the dark screen. That night, the silence felt heavier than usual. He thought of his father. His father always said the same thing. Time is the only thing that's truly fair. Everyone gets the same 24 hours. What you do with them decides everything. David used to laugh it off, old man talk. But sitting alone that night, those words didn't feel funny anymore. A few weeks later, something happened that changed everything. Layoffs were announced at his company. Not everyone, but many people. His name wasn't on the list yet, but the fear hit hard. He realized how fragile his fine life really was. If he lost his job tomorrow, what would he have? No real savings, no real skills beyond routine office work. The dream he talked about, he hadn't even started. Only time had slipped away. That weekend, he went to see his cousin, Sarah, who was like an older sister. She was 38. 4 years ago, Sarah opened a small bakery. People loved her cakes. She worked incredibly hard, but when Sarah talked to someone, there was a calm light in her eyes. David asked, "How did you do it? While we kept waiting, how did you start?" Sarah smiled sadly and poured coffee. "I didn't start at first," she said. "For years, I only talked. I dreamed. I made excuses. Then, one day, I turned 33. Standing in front of the mirror, I realized half the time most people get in life was already gone, and the one thing I said mattered most, I hadn't done it. That scared me far more than failure ever could." She talked about the first 6 months, waking up at 5 a.m. when her body screamed not to, baking until midnight in a tiny kitchen, burnt cakes, bad recipes, customers who never came back. But every day she chose to use her hours instead of being used by them. "The secret isn't talent or luck," she said quietly. "The secret is deciding the next hour matters, and the hour after that, too." Most people wait for a big moment, but real change is just hundreds of small hours added together. That night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about hours. How many thousands of hours had passed since college? How many more would disappear like this? For the first time, he felt the true weight of time. not as an abstract idea, but like sand slipping through his fingers. The next morning, he did something simple. He didn't try to change everything at once. He set the timer for just 1 hour, opened his notebook, worked on the business idea he'd abandoned for years. No phone, no distractions, just 60 minutes. When the timer rang, he stopped. But something had shifted inside him. That hour felt alive, like he'd reclaimed something stolen. Days turned into weeks. He started waking up 30 minutes earlier, not to become a morning person, but to save a small piece of time for himself. Instead of scrolling, he read business books, practiced useful skills. Some days he failed, got frustrated, questioned whether it was worth it. But whenever old habits tried to pull him back to the sofa, he remembered Sarah's words, "The next hour matters." Months passed. Slowly, things began to take shape. He saved a little money, built a simple website, tested his first product with friends. It wasn't perfect. The goal was far away, but it was real. For the first time in years, David felt like he was moving towards something, not just drifting through life. Nearly 2 years later, one evening, David sat in his small rented space, his first tiny coffee corner. Nothing fancy, a few tables, good coffee, his own recipes, but it was his. Customers came, some stayed, some left reviews. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, but he was building something, day by day. Looking back, he realized the real secret of success wasn't a magical moment or a burst of motivation. It was something much quieter, repeatedly choosing to treat time as the most valuable thing, because it is. That thought reminded him of an old story he once heard in college, one he hadn't understood back then. A professor brought a large glass jar to class. First, he filled it with big rocks until no more would fit. The class said, "The jar is full, sir." The professor smiled and poured in smaller stones that filled the gaps. Then he added sand, then water. Only then was it truly full. The professor said, "This jar is your life. The big rocks are what truly matters: family, health, dreams. Without them, life is meaningless. The small stones are work, friends, hobbies. The sand is the trivial stuff, scrolling, meaningless talk that fills the gaps. If you fill the jar with sand first, there's no room for the big rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, everything else will fit. So decide your priorities. Give time to what truly matters. The rest will sort itself out." David smiled, remembering the story. He realized he'd learned to place the big rocks first. His dream, his time, his small coffee corner. These were his big rocks. Everything else could fill the gaps, but it would never take over the jar again. We all get the same 24 hours, no more, no less. The difference isn't how much time we have, it's whether we quietly let it slip away. So the next time you hear yourself say later, stop, look at the clock, feel the weight of that moment, because once it's gone, it never comes back. And maybe today's small decision is the one you'll thank yourself for years from now. So take care of your hours, because they are silently taking care of your life.